When not undergoing repairs or routine maintenance checks, carrier-based FA-18s are either in the air or parked, wing to wing, on the flight deck. With as many as 80 planes aboard, and several at a time taking off or landing, the flight deck can become dangerously busy. FA-18 pilots rely on experienced flight deck operators to move their planes from one spot to the next. With the amount of activity on the flight deck, pilots and personnel have to be under constant alert.
Some people like to say that it's one of the most dangerous streets in the world because of everything that's going on. You really have to have your head on your shoulders and be thinking about everything that's going on around you.
With all the heavy moving parts, one wrong turn can spell disaster. FA-18 pilots have to make sure they're constantly on the same page with their operators, communicating with them using a strict system of signals. To make room on the crowded deck, all naval planes, including the FA-18, are designed to take up as little space as possible.
All aircraft that come to the Navy, there is a requirement when they are designed to have some type of function where they can minimize their surface area on the deck. And that means, even down to a helicopter that is going to fold its rotor blades all the way back. The Tomcat's wings will sweep all the way back rather than coming out for the takeoff position that they need. On the S3 wings that fold over the top and now crisscross over the top of the aircraft because that is a very large wing aircraft. But on the F-18, we're going to fold these wings upright, and now there's an extra 4 to 5 feet of space, 10 feet total now with the other wing, where that is space not utilized on the flight deck anymore. In other words, able to be used for the guys moving taxiing aircraft around.
With $38 million worth of machine under their control, the operators gently ease the FA-18s into their spots. Once in place, another crew chocks the wheels and chains down the plane. They're all following a well-ordered parking plan, a plan monitored just off the flight deck. Once an FA-18 touches down, it becomes the responsibility of the handler.
Heads up around the island, pulling out a prop. Heads up around 643.
The handler keeps track of the plane's position and uses a complicated set of push pins and buttons to update each plane's status. The aircraft templates are exactly to scale, even down to the area a helicopter's props take up when spinning. Precision like this is essential, as the slightest miscalculation in timing or aircraft size could cause a deadly mishap. One of the most important jobs is to monitor when a jet is low on fuel. Before an FA-18 can be cleared for launch by the handler, its tanks have to be filled. Fueling and defueling the jets is a specialized task handled by a meticulously trained crew. And they're kept busy with the FA-18s, which consume massive amounts of fuel, also known as JP5. One criticism of the FA-18 is that it has a relatively small onboard fuel capacity of 1,600 gallons. To increase its range, it can carry 3 external tanks.
You've got 3 drop tanks, which holds about 330 gallons worth of fuel, or 2,200 pounds. So just by adding those 3 tanks, we increase our fuel load by 6,600 pounds. We add the drag, but the amount of gas that we get outweighs the drag of pushing those through the air.
Including its internal tanks, the FA-18 carries roughly 2,500 gallons of JP5. On a regular patrol, it can use almost all its fuel in just an hour and 45 minutes. And FA-18s really burn through their fuel on takeoff, and when they need sudden acceleration from their afterburners. The blast from an FA-18's afterburners is so hot, the protective jet blast diffractors on the flight deck are made of reinforced concrete, as metal would simply melt.
With the afterburner, the hot gases that leave the turbine section are incredibly hot. So by throwing just fuel onto those hot gases, right, you get an instantaneous ignition. By opening these turkey feather nozzles, you allow those gases to leave at a very rapid rate, which results in a tremendous burst of acceleration. If I plugged in the afterburners, I'd probably be out of fuel in about 15 to 20 minutes.
Fully fueled and operational, a carrier's FA-18 squadrons can fly over 100 sorties per day. On mission, or as pilots say, in country, the first order of business for FA-18s is to defend against air-to-air targets. This is what's known as dogfighting, and it's an arena in which the FA-18 has proven highly successful. Close combat is a modern duel to the death, and dogfight training is among the most intense phases of learning how to fly the FA-18.
What I'm going to try to do is to stay on your tail as best I can today.
At NAS Lemoore, trainees have to take on their instructors to earn their FA-18 certification.
What we'd like to see happen today is that we will get ourselves to the appropriate...
Lieutenant Commander Mike Bossard is in charge of the fighter weapons phase of FA-18 training. Today, he is training a former Tomcat pilot how to effectively maneuver the FA-18 in every dogfight scenario.
And once I get to the appropriate range, I'm going to call either a missile shot or I'm going to call fights on. So if you ever lose sight of me today, just look right at your 6 o'clock position and I'll probably be right there.
Or you hope so.
What do you say we go out there and have some fun?
Sounds good.
The dogfighting stage marks roughly the halfway point in FA-18 training, combining what trainees learned in class with high-G maneuvering. This is also the time when new pilots first challenge their instructors. Their game faces on, teacher and student prepare to square off. Before takeoff, the pilots personally ensure their jets are in working order. For the high-speed maneuvers of dogfighting, pilots need to be certain their jet will perform flawlessly under even the heaviest G-forces. All flaps, ailerons, and stabilizers are tested. The dogfighters taxi out, and the duel begins. When they're on the offensive, pilots need to stay on the tail of their adversary and lock on target.
Trigger down, snap. It's high.
Defensive maneuvering requires severe G-turns and sudden escape moves.
Right. I got sight. Knock it off. That's right now.
In the last exercise, the trainee proves his mettle, turning the tables and getting on his instructor's tail.
That was sneaky. See ya.
But he must still complete weeks of additional weapons training before he is certified to drop live ordnance.